Hi everybody, I wanted to record this video as part example for what I'm looking for when you post your own videos, but I'll also use it as a way to give you hints um, in exchange for watching me talk. So the first thing is that I have requested that you don't write out a script that you read off to the camera, just because if I wanted that, I would have just assigned another forum post. So instead, I recommend that you write a list of bullet points that you want to talk about. So I have mine here, just a few lines on each point, and this will help me kind of keep my thoughts together as I record this. So I don't have my map with me, but that's okay. I left it at the office. But when I grade your videos, I'll have your maps up, so you don't necessarily need to show them. Yeah, so for the video content, the first thing I'm looking for is things that are left out of your map. So I want 3 examples of things that are omitted, just another way of saying left out. So for example, for my map, I didn't use a whole lot of color. I was kind of making maybe I shouldn't admit this, but I was making it at the last minute as an example for you all. And so I kind of remembered at the very end that I asked you to highlight the path of your commute. So I put mine highlighted, but I think that I could have used color a lot more effectively to indicate the spheres on the map. So for example, like maybe instead of my little tree icons, it could have been like a patch of green and just label it trees or forest or whatever. Another thing is, let's see. So when I was talking about the hydrosphere, I mentioned like being able to see the bay when I am coming down from skyline. But one thing that also really stands out to me is that I can see straight across to Mount Diablo, which is like out past Oakland. So if I maybe made the map at a bigger scale, I would have been able to include that. And that would be a cool inclusion, I think, because that's like a really important part of the view to me. Like I can pinpoint this mountain that's super recognizable. And so I kind of have that sort of relationship with the lithosphere in that way. And then inversely, I could have zoomed in more. I think it's kind of funny that in a couple of my examples, I mentioned my bicycle, but I don't have like the path of my bicycle commute on the map. It follows pretty much El Camino Real, so the bus route that I have marked, but it takes a lot of like twists and turns on back roads because nobody wants to bike on El Camino. So those are 3 things that I kind of left out. For the next question, I'm asking like for you to talk about those omissions, those things left out, and what that tells us about the nature of maps, because maps are made by humans. Even when they're made with computers, they're still made by humans. So I'm not really gonna get that much into it here because I wanna hear your thoughts, but some things to remember are just basic facts about humans. So we're imperfect. We leave things out all the time, sometimes by accident, but we're also biased. We have our own perspectives and what things that are important to us. So like the way that I include a bus route in addition to a car route, because I think public transportation is important. And the other thing is that humans make decisions. And so even if it's made by a computer, we're either telling the software what to do, or we are, when we're drawing the map ourselves, we are making decisions about what to include and what to not include. So all that is to say, we can talk about maps as another form of a text, something that humans are creating, and we can think about what that means. So there's some hints for that. And then the third one is to think about the map as a medium. So I asked you to draw maps, but just as easily, you could have written an essay about your commute, or you could have, I don't know, recorded a video, or we could have done a field trip and followed each class member around. But I asked you to make a map. So what do you think that maps are helping us communicate, and what do maps not communicate as easily? So especially, I think one thing to think about is visualization and how maps help us turn our experiences into pictures, or to represent space as a picture. So that's something to think about, visualization. And then the last one I'm probably not going to get into because I really want to hear what you all have to say. So it's just leaving, like, thinking about which spheres are easier or harder to leave, or sorry, easier or harder to include, and which kind of like feel difficult and might be more prone to being left off of your map. So that's kind of really personal, just how we think about the spheres and like what our examples are. So I'm not really going to get into that. Yeah, so that's kind of some examples from my map, and also just some general hints about things that you can include, things that I'm looking for, and things that will make your video better or your reflections better. It's not really about the format. Yeah, so don't worry about your video being perfect. Just show me how you are thinking about this. Okay, before I ramble too much, thank you. I will talk to you soon, I guess.